Now, I'm going to give you a quick digression because I think it's a little bit more positive than the rest of the talk, and it might be something that all of you are interested in. I'm going to give you an argument now as an example of this concept of fitness, that humans are unfit for love. What I mean by that is that we're unfit for the goal that many religions and many people hold dear of a lifelong monogamous relationship. In fact, till death do us part is no longer the case. Divorce has overtaken death as the major cause for marital breakup, and up to 50% of relationships end in divorce, and this instability in relationships is constant across cultures in both pre-industrial and post-industrial societies. Now, why is it? How can we explain this failure of humans to continue their pair bond and continue to stay in a relationship until death? Well, one explanation is that our biology is not suited to such relationships. We are essentially adapted biologically and psychologically to an environment called the environment of evolutionary adaptiveness, which essentially correlates with Pleistocene hunter-gatherer existence. So while our society and technology has rapidly changed, especially in the last 10,000 years, our biology and our psychology has remained relatively constant over the last 100,000 years. And of course, human lifespan today is far longer than in that Pleistocene environment, mainly due to reductions in risks and better health. In that original environment to which we're adapted, many marriages ended in death. What would have been the length of an average marriage through most of human history? Well, given a life expectancy in the order of 30 years and assuming young marriages in the teens, at least 50% of marriages have ended within 15 years, usually due to the death of one of the partners. Indeed, you can see this pattern in recent hunter-gatherer societies, such as the Arche of eastern Paraguay. Women average 10 marriages by the age of 30, with menarche at 15, first child by 19, last child at 42, and on average 8 live births. Half of the people survive to 40, and average life expectancy is between 22 and 26 years. In such a high mortality society that was the norm for most of human existence, a mutation predisposing to long-lasting marriages would rarely have an effect. Most marriages ended with one partner dying. So there was no selective pressure for very long-term relationships. However, a mutation which made for a short-term relationship would be self-defeating, since the chances of survival of abandoned mothers and children is significantly lowered. So evolution favours relationships long enough to make the chances of children survive into adulthood high, yet not much longer than the expected survival of one of the spouses. And this is very consistent with actually today's average length of a relationship being 7 to 10 years. We've understood a lot about human mating behaviour and their patterns of love by studying non-human animals, in particular the voles. Voles are small rat-like creatures which inhabit the plains of the United States. And two related species of voles display different patterns of pair bonding. The mountain vole is characteristically polygamous. The male has a number of sexual partners. And the prairie vole is characteristically monogamous. Scientists have understood the basis for this different behaviour being related to different parts of the reward centre of their brain. Indeed, scientists have successfully transferred genetic material from the brains of the monogamous voles, the monogamous prairie voles, into the polygamous mountain voles and changed their mating behaviour to be monogamous. What's all that got to do with human beings? Well, the differences in their behaviour is related to a change in a receptor in the brain called the vasopressin receptor 1A gene. We've also identified a similar gene in human beings. And, surprisingly, a recent study has shown that there is a mutation or a change in this receptor in some men. And if you carry 2 copies of this mutation, the so-called 334 mutation, you're more often to report marital crisis, including threat of divorce in the last year. Your partners are less likely to be satisfied. There's less likely to be consensus and cohesion. and these are significantly different to people who carry no copies of this. And this version of the gene is associated with different activity in an area of the brain known to be associated with pair bonding. So the story that unfolds is that differences in behaviour, even differences in ability to sustain a long-term relationship, have a biological basis. They differ between different individuals, and we will be able, at some point, to influence that biology to achieve whatever goal we choose to achieve. Indeed, we can increase our fitness for love by changing the underlying biology of love. All patterns of love in human and non-human animals, or mammals anyway, follow three distinct patterns: an initial phase of lust, followed by a phase of attraction, and then a phase of bonding or attachment, which enables the young to be reared. Each of these have different neurochemical bases, and each of these can be separately manipulated. So, for example, testosterone increases sexual drive in women, oxytocin promotes pair bonding, even in the absence of mating. So, what this story tells us is our fitness can be influenced by our evolutionary history, and that it is amenable to understanding and amenable to change.